All right, well, good Sunday afternoon. This is video number one for the day since I'm behind and I'm trying to catch up. So this will be our first one, and then our module four, last video for this module, I'll do here in a little bit. But starting off with our reflection blog, we'll get into that real quick and answer our prompt questions and just do a little review of the reading. So So here's our overview. We'll do a reading recap. The article we read this week was What Ethical Leaders Mean to Me, Asian America and Europeans Perspective. And then here's our two prompt questions, which we will get into at the end. So starting with our reading recap, it was an article basically covering ethical leadership across the globe and how different not infrastructures, but just different cultures handle different situations and different leadership styles. And they broke down kind of what they saw, and they developed some cool little tidbits from it, which we'll go over right here. And the first one is the Global Leadership and Organizational Behavior Effectiveness, which is also known as GLOBE. And what they did is they took basically several different cultures from around the world, broke them down into three subcultures. You have your Confucius Asia, you have your Anglo cluster, and you have your Germanic Europe. And from that kind of research they did, they kind of developed some dominant themes of some ethical and unethical things. But first, starting off, just kind of highlighting the GLOBE acronym, what they did there, and just highlighting those three subcultures. We'll start off with Confucius Asia. The three big takeaways they have from there is we're into group collectivism, which is taking pride, loyalty, and cohesiveness as groups. Institutional collectivism, in which they reward collective distribution of rewards and actions across groups, not just individuals. And then the last thing was performance, which encourage and rewards group members for their performances. Moving on to the Angelo cluster, which I guess in the grand scheme of things, you kind of teach it like, or see it as your Western cultures. The Confucius Asia would be your Eastern cultures, and then your Germanic Europe is your European cultures. But I digress. Moving on back to Angelo cluster, so our Western kind of societies and leadership styles. We have the three big takeaways from them was they rewarded performance, which is encouraging and rewarding groups. But they also rewarded future orientation, which is deploying or developing and delivering through gratification and planning, investing in the future. And then lastly, there's individualisticness, and that's, to be fair, authentic and generous, caring, and kind, kind of like that adapted leadership style. And then moving on to the last subculture, we have the Germanic Europe. And things they took away from them is they noticed assertiveness throughout leadership, which assertiveness is assertive, dominant, demanding in relationships with others. And you have uncertainty avoidance, and basically in a nutshell, meaning they rely on established social norms to alleviate uncertain future events that they don't know. So kind of like kind of the opposite of the Angelo clusters, which they seek and prepare for the future. The Germanic Europe kind of falls back, I guess, in this way of saying, with pre-established social norms to kind of just fall back and rely on for uncertainty in the future. So what do we get from that? So through all that research, they developed dominant themes. There was 6 ethical and 5 unethicals that they came up with. Starting off with ethical, you had accountability, consideration, fairness, character, collective orientation, and openness and flexibility. And unethical themes they discovered was self-interest, deception, dishonesty, lack of accountability, lack of personal value, and narrow short-term focus. So with all those now kind of learned about through the reading, we're going to kind of apply that to things, what I see in my work. So that leads into prompt question number 1, discuss ethical and unethical themes in your culture. So for the purpose of this reflection, I'm going to broaden the culture. I'm going to speak on my personal opinions of the military, since I am in the military. Definitely some ethical things. I mean, we are built on accountability, fairness, openness, character, who you are, collectiveness, collective orientation, because we are one group. Hence the whole reason and meaning behind why we wear uniforms, because we left, in a way, when you raise your right hand, you stepped out of your old self and you stepped into a team aspect, right? And that's kind of why we wear uniforms. That's why we are uniform across all the branches, because at the end of the day, we are one team, there to protect and serve the country, right? And then unethical things I've seen in my culture. Unfortunately, there's a lot of self-interest you will see throughout your time, because at the end of the day, although you are the military, it is a career, and there is progression. And with progression, there comes self-interest. People have self-interest when they're trying to promote and move on. There's a dirty side to it that a lot of people don't want to talk about, but it's there. Deception and dishonesty. It is something I wouldn't say is as prevalent as maybe other normal civil or civilian sector kind of things, but it is there. But I would say there's a lot of checks and balances in place to keep that from happening or bring it to light and let it be addressed when need be. Lack of accountability. I would say, like, again, there are your one-offs. There are sometimes that happens, but the military is all about accountability, right? You take accountability for your actions. That's kind of why I have rank structure, and there's a reason why we have rank structure, to take accountability for our members. Narrow and short-term focus. I would chalk that more up to a civilian thing. When I think of that, I think of maybe a business's bottom dollar, how fast they can make money, and instead of focusing on the future, they're focused on the now, which can be, unethical, especially for unethical leaders that are trying to, raise their bottom dollar. We don't have that issue in the military because obviously we're salary paid, but at the end of the day too, we have a mission. Everybody is a part of some sort of mission, and our goal is the same across the board. We want to make sure that mission succeeds, because it could be the difference between, the unfortunate day, if it ever comes, that we have to, go out there on those front lines, and take care of business. We hope that day never comes, but it's always a possibility. So yeah. And with that, I believe we'll move on to question number 2. And this is discuss the themes concerning you and your value system. So, I really don't have too many concerns with the military. My values kind of line up with the values. The Air Force has 3 core values: service before self, excellence in all we do, and integrity first. I think those are 3 basic but very important values for anyone. So it's very easy to align those with. Some things I will say that are concerning, that are like the value system I talked about, was a self-interest. There isn't. I don't know a way. I don't think as human beings there will ever be a way that you can eliminate self-interest, because we, at the end of the day, are human beings, and it's just wired into some of us. It's just human nature to have interest of yourself over others. We try to eliminate it as best we can with teamwork and things like that, but until the day comes that almost like robots, there will always be some sort of self-interest. That goes along with deception and dishonesty. That's a human nature thing. People are going to do it. They've been doing it. They're going to do it. And just doing your best to remember that we are a team, and we're only as strong as our weakest link. So deception dishonesty doesn't have a place in that. And then last but not least, I would say lack of accountability. There are instances where people aren't held to a standard, and that's the whole military is a giant standard, and we are all held to it. But there are times that you'll see the political system play itself out, and you try to avoid that as much as possible, but it happens. Sometimes people aren't held accountable for their actions, and it's detrimental to the morale and well-being of a force. So it is definitely something that I've noticed, but it's something that's, I say, few and far between, but it's also an issue, and it's something that needs to be addressed and will continuously be addressed. And with that, we'll wrap up our Module 4 recap. So we're moving on to the next one.